that, any advice you would like to give or say something conscious we should be focusing on?
Plastic has great purpose.
Even though I'm not totally against plastic.
So no, I've not ever worked with the government in that respect, but with ASRAC, for example, we are government approved.
Let's dive into it. So,
but we're also doing a lot of educational sessions.
Plastic has a big impact on our lives now,
which is really good.
So hey everyone, and welcome back to ZÁY SHEEN Podcast, where we explore fashion with purpose and sustainability stitched into every thread. I'm your host, Afreed Budd, the founder of ZÁY SHEEN, a fashion brand rooted in sustainability, ethics, and elegance thread. Today's episode is something truly special. We're diving into the ocean conversation, ethical fashion, advocacy with someone who's making waves in both worlds. Amanda Rushforth. Thank you so much, Amanda. Welcome to the podcast. We're truly honored to have you here. So, how's it going?
Thank you for inviting me on. It's lovely to be connected and to have this podcast link between Dubai and the US. So that's super fun as well. Glad we've made timings work from both sides. The one thing that separates all of us, of course, is the ocean. So I think it's a very pertinent conversation, especially following on from World Environment Day and World Oceans Day, which just happened.
Exactly. No, beside that, I'm also glad, the weather is hot there. In New York, it's in June and still it's chilly. I'm sitting outside in my backyard. I'm glad it's supposed to be raining by now, but it's not raining. So I'm glad. I'm happy for that. I can, go with the chill.
Well, not rain. We're definitely getting climate change on this side also. It's a lot hotter than it should have been in June. So we're hitting 42 Celsius at the moment.
Oh my God. So, okay. Good luck for that. So yeah, let's dive into it. So can you tell me more about your early days when you started and how you get started and how was, it was for you when you thought of it, or when you get to know about these things?
Okay, so marine conservation has been something that has been very much part of my everyday life. I grew up by the sea in Saudi Arabia, in Jeddah, and it used to be a very raw coastline, not much building or construction. So we had a lot of opportunity as a family when I was young to visit, beautiful untouched beaches. The one thing that sort of became clearer and clearer, even as a 7 and 8 year old growing up there, was that there was an awful lot of rubbish or trash that would wash up. And the conversation was always, where does it come from? Why is it in the ocean? And what can we do about it? So from a very, very young age, I've been picking up litter and doing beach cleanups. And that was, just part of our everyday experience. So to see it get worse and worse as the years have progressed, and I've moved from Saudi to Dubai, which is another coastal city, we're not seeing it get any better, we're seeing it get worse. But we're seeing it get worse in a different way, which is microplastics rather than big, large bottles. 2 seconds. Hello.
Hi.
Excited to jump in to the podcast. Say hi, Levi.
Hi.
Hi, Levi. How are you?
Levi is 3 years old. And what do we do when we find trash on the beach? Where do we put it? In the bin, exactly. This is something that is being hopefully instilled into both of my children, but because, they see us do it. And I think it's a really good way of getting them into the habit at an early age.
I'm so happy to see that. Nice to meet you, Levi.
That's your name. Well done. Right. Okay. Can you go back to Daddy for 2 seconds? Thank you, my love.
So yeah, thank you so much for explaining that, Amanda. Because I'm not sure about the Saudi beaches, how crowded that is, but about the Dubai, everyone goes there. So how the people react? Do they throw the plastic, or what the government, do something about that, or they have the strict policies? I'm sure they would, but how that works?
So Dubai is becoming more and more aware of the problem, but not just the problem. I think it's looking through the entire ecosystem and finding ways in which, even if we do pick up plastic, where does it go? Do we have reliable operations to actually, do something with the plastic post-consumer life cycle.
Right.
And I think that's the biggest problem, is when you've got people who are recycling and they're using the right bins, they're using the right mindset, which is obviously to clean the plastic, separate it, and put it somewhere for that to happen. If there's no end result, if the microplastics that are being broken down end up being sold elsewhere to other countries, which is what often happens, then we're not fully seeing the reward that recycling gives us.
Exactly.
But now there's a lot more companies based here, like Degrade and other sort of brands that will take the microplastics and in-house repurpose them. So whether or not they're making pieces of furniture, or they're making from a thread to thread concepts where they're making new clothes out of it, you see a lot of opportunity and research and design that actually has ended up in creating a lot more recycled products, both clothing and plastic.
Exactly. Even though I was looking at, and they were making plastic roads, the roads, so that's also so cool that we could able to get some plastic and we can recycle it. So that's actually wonderful for that. So I was also looking, and I have a question about ASREC. How that influenced you about in sustainable fashion or in sustainability in total? How was your experience about that?
So ASREC and sustainable fashion are one is part of the other, for example. So ASREC is the Marine Conservation Society that I'm a board member of, and we focus on the marine ecosystem throughout the UAE. So we look at everything from the coral life to mangroves, which helps sequester carbon, and are also native to our area, which is really important because you can't put in a new plant life that doesn't have the ability to survive our temperatures, both
Exactly.
in the water and out. So mangroves are sustainable, and they do thrive in certain areas in the UAE, like in Al Quwain and Abu Dhabi. So we see a lot of benefit by planting those. Coral life, again, Dubai is too hot as a coastline. It's actually the hottest coastline in the whole Gulf. But just around the corner, Sharjah and Fujairah and Al Quwain, you start to see more and more cold spots that actually allow coral reproduction. So we've had a lot of success with coral nurseries that we support in these areas. And we also look at, not just what's under the water, but what we're putting into the water. So things like sustainable fashion is one of our pillars that comes under microplastics and plastic debris. Plastic pollution. Not many people realize that obviously the fashion industry is one of the biggest polluters in the world for not just carbon footprint, the chemical dyes that they use, but also the microplastics that come off non-sustainable clothing material like
polyester and
synthetics, exactly, acrylic, nylon, polyester, rayon, all of the ones that are not made using plants, so cotton, linen, and flax, hemp, bamboo. These are all much more sustainably minded because they'll biodegrade naturally. So every time you wash something that's a synthetic fiber through the grey water in the washing machine, it's likely to deposit microplastics in the ocean without you even trying. So we're facing much bigger problems with much smaller pieces of plastic nowadays.
No, I totally agree. When I was also reading and searching, doing my research online when I started this, and it was it's, even though when they it's totally waste, and it's bad for your body, even when you wear the clothes and all that. So it doesn't make sense to me to make clothes with plastic, because it's totally harm for anyone or even the planet. So but I believe a lot of governments, as we know, they're taking actions and try to take it down or make it slow. So I believe that's a thing, that's a movement that we all
It is, and it's easy to say don't make clothes with plastic. Plastic has great purpose. Exactly. Plastic makes things stretchy, waterproof. It makes it more durable. So if you look at things like raincoats or Wellington boots, things that are for hiking, things that are for in the snow, you're not going to find many natural fibers there because they're just not going to be insulative enough.
Exactly.
A lot of natural fibers are bio-friendly, which is fantastic, meaning that they don't smell when you sweat, like linens and cottons. They help absorb our natural odor as well. But synthetic fibers are also going to repel water, and they're going to allow movement in ways that, just cotton and linen won't.
Exactly. That's right. So I totally agree with that. Also, your collaboration with Mary.
Binary.
Yeah. What's the full form of that?
So during COVID, obviously, we were all, stuck indoors, and there were a lot of people who, I would say, turned a bit more creative or turned their hand towards creativity because we were looking at things to do within our own homes. One of the areas for me that was sort of an unfulfilled idea was I did a fashion design degree at university. With a pathway in fashion promotion and enterprise. Having done the degree, I realized that it was so carbon heavy and I had no desire to sort of create my own line. But an opportunity came up that was quite interesting with a friend of mine who has her own sustainable slow fashion brand that's based in the UAE. And me having championed, obviously, local designers and things previously, she said, look, why don't we do something together? I know you know about fashion design and you know the steps it takes. You also know how we can reduce the steps and make it less carbon heavy. And, we created something that both of us decided would be items that A, we would wear, and B, they would be seasonless. So all natural fibers, predominantly linens. Wow. Organic linens.
Okay.
But it meant that they would, be able to be bought, not just for one season.
Wow, no.
Mommy, I'm
here. Yeah, so I would say that if we put some thoughts into it, even though I'm not totally against plastic, because being honest, I don't think we could, but plastic has a big impact on our lives now, and it's very hard to get rid of it. But the thing is, if we can recycle it properly as much as we can and use for the thing that it should be need, so I think that would be a great balance to do that. And even though, starting a clothing line and making new clothes, as we all know, there's enough clothes made for the next 6 generations. So we don't need any more clothes. Even though I started the clothing line, and my point of view, or what I tell people is, I said, everything that you need is already in your wardrobe. Whenever you need something to wear, just open your drawer, open your wardrobe, everything is in there. But if you need to buy something more, just go for the sustainable brands or ethical brand that, supporting the planet and supporting the people. We all have equal rights. So, it's a big topic about the ethical fashion too. So, the production and all that. So, yeah. Exactly. Sorry, I agree. So, how do you personally balance the quality, style, and sustainability in your life?
For me, two of the most important rules I have in my own personal life are, with a wardrobe, it's one in, one out. So if I need to put something in my wardrobe, I make sure that I'm either upselling, thrifting, or donating an item that is still wearable and nice. And it's helped me really manage that kind of need to shop.
Right.
Because the decision to actually get something, out, and it's not just, one pair of shoes in, a top out. I have to take a pair of shoes out. So I make sure it's trickier for me to put anything new into my wardrobe. And the second thing for me is I shop secondhand first. So if I can find it secondhand, which has reduced its carbon footprint by 68% anyway, just by shopping secondhand, then I'm happy to buy it. If I have to buy it firsthand, then I have to look at a sustainable brand first.
So how's the market of secondhand clothing over there? Do you guys have the thrift stores, or do you have the malls, or how's it?
So we have the secondhand market here is lost its taboo, which is really good. We have some really, really good online outlets like the luxurycloset.com. They are my go-to for things like Chanel secondhand, Hermes. And I try and shop big brands like that secondhand. specifically because I know that when, for whatever reason, I'm done with them, I know they've got to sell it like a value, so I can sell them on again. So I look at it as renting the clothes rather than actually owning them.
Right.
If you shop brands that aren't as high value, the likelihood is their life cycle within that secondhand market is a lot shorter. Plus, if you shop big brand names, their secondhand market price is like 70% reduced instantly,
Right.
which is great for anybody who's getting into the brand for the first time.
Right.
And B, their quality is probably a lot better. There's a lot more handmade items. There's a lot more items that have better quality materials, even better linens and things like this. So yeah, secondhand's my first port of call, and then one in, one out is traditionally my sort of personal goal in that.
Wow, that's so cool. You just mentioned about the handmade clothing. So how's the culture in Dubai? Do they have some local artisans or some brands or their local, Emiratis, or how they like it, or do they make this stuff? What's the culture over there?
Dubai's got a huge Emirati fashion market, and we've got things like Dubai Fashion Week, which is hugely popular. You see local and regional brands that are on the Met Gala steps, the red carpets at movie premieres, Cannes as well. The names that used to be just Emirad and Elisab being the big ones coming out of the Arab world are few and far between. We've got so many local brands now, which is amazing. There's some fantastic designers, not just in fashion, but in jewelry as well. And, to sort of see them come from the region, maybe we've, been at events and things together in the past, and see them on the red carpet in these spaces really shows you that anyone with a dream can get there.
Wow. So also you mentioned when we, having a conversation before the podcast, you were telling me that you also work with the government. Tell me a little bit of experience about that, and also how the government support or have the rules for the local production houses for reduce the carbon emissions and reduce the waste, or how they works over there in Dubai.
So no, I've not ever worked with the government in that respect, but with ASRAC, for example, we are government approved. So what that means is that we are allowed to accept CSR sponsorship. So we help make other corporate companies who are looking to support different local NGOs from an ESG compliance perspective. This is something that ASRAC is allowed to offer. So we would go into some of the big oil companies or big corporate world and offer them a way to kind of reduce their carbon emissions, to give them carbon credits in that respect, and then also to get a bit more hands-on and do things like beach cleanups with us, plant mangroves with us, and even the coral planting or ghost net diving as well, depending on their abilities. So one of the things that's really interesting to see is how Dubai is welcoming this change. There's a lot of corporate governance and compliance that will come into consideration if you are an NGO or a not-for-profit organization, just to make sure that everything is above board. But we are all volunteers. So for us, it's just amazing to see how much, the mindset change is. And we have this big push for Dubai and sustainability now, including like the year of sustainability last year. We've got sustainability goals for 2050. So a lot of the government is pushing to make Dubai a much more greener place.
Wow. No, and as I said before, I believe in Dubai. If they said they're gonna do it, they're gonna do it. So I believe you guys. So definitely. So what is the one thing that you are focused, or your NGO is focused right now, especially in this month for the environmental month? What you guys are doing?
But as the push is, so a little explanation. We're coming into the summer, and Dubai summer is 50 degrees Celsius. So you'll find a mass exodus of expats from sort of end of June till end of August. So we consider this kind of like a very quiet time in Dubai, and it's definitely too hot to be outside doing any of those activities that we normally do. So this for us is a big conversation around actually building the bank, as it were, for people actually buying individual mangroves and actually buying the corals, so that we can get everything ready, and as soon as it hits, end of August, we can go and do big planting, and hopefully hit those big targets. But yeah, you're not finding many people on the beaches right now.
Right.
It's definitely too hot. So
burn.
to do a beach pickup would just be, it would be a little quieter than we'd hope in terms of attendance. But we're also doing a lot of like educational sessions. So the schools are still on till the end of this month. So I'm going in and talking to different corporates and different schools, and not just myself, but other speakers on behalf of ASRAC. We talk to sort of everyone from the grassroots level all the way through to the heads of business,
Right.
about the different opportunities that we have, but also the importance of being part of a more local initiative and not just donating money abroad, where you're not really reaping the rewards.
That's right. No, I love it how you guys are prepared, because you know what's common and you guys know what to do and you got a plan. So I love that. Also, as you said, it's gonna be hotter, like 50 degrees, and I believe it's like more than 130 Fahrenheit if we see in the US, or more than that, I believe. So what are the Dubai's practices for the air conditioning and making more energy for the electricity, ethically or sustainably?
Yeah, so we do have obviously our AC is on permanently at this time of year, but there is an increase in solar panels that you start seeing. We use a lot more solar power. Dubai is very innovative in that area. So whilst I'm not sort of clued up 100% on the energy, we do have a lot of green initiatives within the energy companies here. So whether they're offsetting their carbon credits and their carbon footprint, or they're actually using renewable energy, I couldn't confirm yet. But there is a lot of new initiatives and new announcements that are, honestly, month by month, we're seeing such progress. But the best thing you can do in terms of ACs and things like this is increase our
Oopsie.
service, and by keeping your temperature on the AC at a more moderate level, and running permanently rather than turning on and off and blasting cold air.
Some time ago, I believe like 5-6 years ago, I heard about Dubai 10X. So you heard of that? Do you know about it? No?
No.
Okay, so it was a thing where, they were mentioning how Dubai gonna be in the future, because they said we are 10 times ahead of the other, parts of the other countries of the world. So I was hoping that if you know about that and any practices related to sustainability they're doing. So more of that was related to technology that Dubai gonna use.
Okay.
So yeah, that was very cool.
I mean, AI is definitely a very big important point for the government moving forward here. They use AI in everything now, and it wouldn't surprise me if we already have autonomous cars and things coming in. I think it won't be very long before we've got the autonomous.
Do you think they're gonna be flying cars in Dubai? I mean, they already
the
are.
flying cars are coming. They've tested the.
Exactly. So how are they going to use it? Because there are a lot of buildings.
It's true. Honestly, it's not something I'm going to be trying for a long time. I'm not the biggest fan of flying anyway, so okay. I'll leave that to the daredevils for now.
Wow. Nah, me too. I'm scared of heights. I don't know if I'm going to try that too, but let's see. Maybe I can sit in the back and try it.
Yeah.
Also, so some time ago in the podcast, you mentioned about, doing your own clothing line with the collaboration with the other brand. So, you heard of the term greenwashing? So, for a lot of people who might not know how they can find the greenwashing, or what is your perspective for the brands, who are dishonest with their consumers, or they don't show the transparency?
Yeah,
How you react?
good question. So, and let the bell go. So, greenwashing in particular means, for anyone who doesn't know, it is I would say the hiding of the truth.
Okay.
And something that is portrayed as being green, i.e., eco-friendly or sustainable, and it's but we're seeing lots of flashing green signs, lots of pictures of leaves, lots of percentages, and perhaps a lot of words we don't understand. So I would say the most important thing to avoid greenwashing is to know your materials, to understand the difference between synthetic and natural.
Mm-hmm.
And then that way, when you see lots of percentages and 70% recycled, it means that there's not a full amount of recycling on that garment, and you have to look at the item and sit there and wonder, okay, so which parts are recycled and which aren't? And if it's things like the zip and the buttons, then you're fine. But if it's things like 30% of this it's the skirt, so it means that the actual material itself that's made out of it is not 100% cotton or what have you, then you have a question of whether or not you want to make that purchase. As a consumer, you have all the power.
Exactly.
So the more we're self-informed, the better it is for everything in that consumer cycle. Recycled fabrics often can't be re-recycled. That's one thing people need to know. So if they're buying recycled already, it doesn't mean it's going to be an item that can be recycled after they've finished with it. So it's almost better just to stick with either a virgin synthetic or a natural fiber. But obviously, I'd never recommend anyone to buy a virgin synthetic fabric piece of clothing unless it's an item designed for a sport, for example, like you're going hiking and you need a specific weather-related outfit. Buy it as a non-recycled item, and then it can be recycled later on. But these are changing all the time. So maybe there'll be a new opportunity that will come to light where recycled fibers can actually be recycled in a way that's not just into mattresses and other items that aren't more clothing items. But as you said, there is enough clothing to outfit the next 6 generations. So I think one thing that when we're looking at things like greenwashing, as you mentioned, we are, the people that fall for it. So if we can make that conscious decision to reduce our spending overall, to not go out looking for new clothes, to not be led by trends that are flashing up online, not digitally divest from, our morals in that respect, then we can hopefully become more sustainable consumers and have a more sustainable mindset in that respect.
That's totally right. That's actually the main purpose of that podcast series, to make the awareness around the sustainability, because I'm not going to blame the people, because some of them don't have the education or they're not aware of this thing. But as you said, it's the power is in our hands, or the person who's listening to this, it's in their hand. So if you know the things, if you're hearing this podcast, just keep it in your mind, and when the time comes, act on it, because your act matters. If everybody do their own part, I believe it's gonna be more easier to make a difference. So to act together. Also, according to your experience, what kind of transparency should brand use to gain trust of the people?
The way in which brands can really show they mean business as a sustainable outlet is offering up the information, transparent manufacturing, for example. So telling us where they source the fabric from, making sure it's ethically sourced, making sure it's fair trade and fair pay for all the workers, and showing obviously that it's a smaller consignment amount. If you have 1 million pieces in a size S, then you have 1 million in an M, 1 million in an L. It's much more sustainable for a brand to be taking orders and making based on their orders. So if you do it that way around, it is called slow fashion. So you're not overbuying and you're not producing too much waste. It is more costly to do it that way for a brand. But, personally, I much rather pay a bit more on the basis that, there's only 10 other people that have this item rather than a million.
Right.
But that's my personal preference.
No.
I think that if other people have that too, then, there's a lot of slow brands that are made by real people and not, larger corporations.
Right.
And they would be very, very grateful to, have conversations. So if you ask questions and the brand doesn't answer, then I'd question, their commitment to a sustainable output. But if you ask questions of a small or slow brand, they're going to be very happy that you are doing, and they're going to be able to, really commit to being sustainable in that respect, and actually giving you, the full manufacturing scope. But transparency is key. If a brand isn't transparent, or it's over flashy on the greens and the, pictures of leaves and all of these things, you want to just have a conversation in your head about, okay, well, why are they doing it that way? What are they, negating to tell us in the other aspects? So if you're able, then look at the label and make a decision for yourself based on the type of material it's made from. And always have that, thought process that says, what am I going to do with this item? How often am I going to wear it?
Exactly.
Is it something I can then sell on, or will it end up in landfill because it's not going to last more than 2 or 3 washes?
Now you explained it very precise. I believe that's the thing, or that's the way how we should, question ourselves before we buy something. Because, as I said before, we already have everything. So if you need something for the occasionally, you should know that what we could do, or the best way, I discovered the other guests too, and is the renting that you also mentioned. So if you know that, I'm gonna be going to this occasion and I'm gonna be wearing it once in a lifetime or twice, so you can just only rent and then send it back, give it back. So I believe that's also one of the more ways popular. It's getting popular now, so it's very great.
Yeah, we have a lot of them here, actually.
Yeah.
Some really, really good ones.
Yeah, I believe so. I think Dubai have more occasions to go. So if you're buying clothes every day, that's gonna be not so ethical, even for your pocket. So it's better to be renting. So just you don't have space in the wardrobe too. I don't know how's the rents over there of the houses. If it's here in the New York City apartment, you don't have a space even to put your clothes.
It's the same.
It's the same.
Yeah.
My cousins live there, so he was telling me a little bit. So I was like, okay, I'll be visiting.
Yeah, we might have bigger wardrobes, but it's
okay.
Not. Yeah, I wouldn't say filling them is the goal. Put it that way.
Exactly. So, also the next thing is you also have worked with the mission-driven ventures. What are the toughest parts of building something sustainable today? I'm talking about the clothing brand perspective. If you want to build a clothing brand, what are the things that you should consider, or according to your experience?
I would say if you're building a clothing brand, is know your audience completely. So if you are targeting obviously a different generation to yours, make sure you have the exact description of the person or persons that you're looking to outfit, and that way you're less likely to get it wrong, because getting it wrong is cost. Get it wrong is cost for the manufacturing, it's cost for all the test pieces, and then that also leaves wastage. So if you've bought lots of fabric and it's the wrong fabric, it doesn't work well, or it doesn't sell well, then you have surplus environment. If you can source fabrics and things from things like dead stock companies, because dead stock fabric is exactly that. It's surplus to someone's already purchased requirements, and you're helping to use in small quantities the fabric that has nowhere else to go except live in a warehouse. So I would say dead stock is a really good way of reducing your cost as a brand. No, not just obviously your audience buying, but if you can give an opportunity to your consumer that either buys back the pieces once they're done with it, or offers secondhand, so offers them a resale platform, or perhaps gives them an offset. So you say, 1% for the planet, or there's some sort of donation that goes per item to a cause that's linked to perhaps your manufacturing chain. So whether or not it's the communities in which the people who have made your clothes actually live in, you're helping to, build schools, build roads, things like that. I think people trust people. So if you can be as transparent and as personable and human as possible as a brand, you'll see that, people will like to support that.
Yeah. That's very good. My next question was to what is your advice for the founders, who are coming up with the clothing brand, sustainable clothing brand? I believe you already given the advices and you mentioned the thing is that, so they should know what to do. So no, that's lovely. So also the thing you mentioned before is, paying more for the sustainable and for the slow fashion. I think even though I don't know about the Dubai, how they, manage the food market, but in the US, especially in New York, you have to pay extra for the organic food. I mean, whatever the normal prices are, we already know that, it's not so good for your health. But if you want to be more, friendly, or you want to be, good for your health, you have to pay extra for the same thing, like $3-4 more for the same thing, like milk, eggs, or wheat, or whatever. So also, if you also want good for your body and good for the planet, it doesn't harm you to pay some extra for yourself, for your body, for the outer one, if you're taking care for inside. So it's the same thing. So, but
very much.
Yeah, but I believe, some of the big companies, the corporates, they feed into the people about moving fast paced, and we expect if we order right now, the thing gonna be delivered by the next day or within the 24 hours. Even Amazon do that. And I do understand, there's things, but I believe the consumers right now, it's so into it, so they can't wait. Even the brands.
Yeah, exactly. There's definitely this sense of, I want it at my fingertips. I want it delivered, in 2 hours, that kind of thing. We have that here too. I think not a lot of people realize, though, when you get clothing delivered, especially if it's from a big company, it's actually a lot harder for a brand to repackage it and put it back online or put it back on the floor if you return it.
Yes.
So it's definitely worth making sure of your sizes if you're ordering online before you order, and don't order more than one, and know that if you return anything because it doesn't fit, it's ending up 90% of the time as wastage.
Yeah,
so it's not the most sustainable option.
That's right. So at this point, how can a consumer, or me myself, can influence the future of this industry? What we need to do?
You vote with your money. So if you shop sustainably, it might not seem like a lot, but you're changing that 1.001% mindset. And if you can convince one other person to do the same, whether it's your mum or your son or your brother or your friend, then you've helped that person also make that same choice. And if they have the same outlook, you start to see a pattern. But only with our money can we make any change, because talking about it now is great for information and getting the awareness out there, like things like understanding the difference between synthetic natural fibers, but also what happens to our clothes, once they're done. where do they end up? In Chile, in the Atacama Desert, they're piling up the landfills seen from space. In different parts of Africa, the clothing is littered across, the beachfronts. And we had huge fires in Africa's largest secondhand clothing market, which destroyed, millions of clothes. That doesn't mean there's a requirement for more of them. It means there's no longer the space to sell them in.
Right.
That's gone. You also have a lot of ethical problems with manufacturing and things like this. So, I can't even remember what we were talking about. Just when you start thinking about all the things involved in the fashion industry, and the fact that the carbon footprint is heavier than all transport and logistics combined.
Right.
The fact that, the chemicals that it takes to dye one pair of jeans, and the water that it goes through. It's not a closed loop manufacturing system. Most people don't realize that denim is actually white. It's cotton to begin with. So in order to make it the blue that we see on a pair of denim and jeans, has to go through wash after acid bath, after wash, after, different chemical processes and treatments in order to get it the blue that we want. So denim is one of the most unsustainable things on the planet, even though it's made with cotton, but because of the processes it goes through. So if we can have that awareness, if we have that understanding, and that's where social media can really help, then we're likely to be able to change one person's opinion about A, keeping an item in their wardrobe longer, or B, shopping more sustainably next time around.
I totally agree. One of my guests was from Ghana, and he was telling me he also owns a sustainable fashion. He actually made a footwear. So he was telling me that 85% of the unused clothes over inventory or the returns go to their place somewhere near, and they burn it, as you mentioned. And he was telling me that people actually died because of that. The water pollution, you might know more than I do, of course, about the water pollution. People died of using it, not drinking, but if it's so toxic. So we guys talk about it, and there are people who are actually facing these problems. And people living in the first world country like me, we're there and we face this, and we're gonna be like, where am I? What should I do? So we should be conscious of our actions when we do something or purchase something. I totally agree with that. So what's one action that you recommend to the person who's listening to take today to make a difference, or for this month June in particular, for the environment?
I mean, there's lots of different things depending on where they are in mindset for being a consumer. But I would say vote with your money.
You said
if you
time.
Vote with your money.
Okay.
That is 100%. If you think of it that way, you vote a fast fashion brand if you give them money. It's like, think of them instead of the names of the brands, and think of them as the politicians you don't like, or whatever it is. And if you give them money, you're voting for them to succeed. But if you vote for like the small brands and the people people you see when you go into their shops, and you actually say, you know what, they're a nicer person, they're better people, they're better for this planet, they're better for me, they're better for everything. I vote for them. So vote with your money.
Wow, that's actually wonderful. we should think like that, of course. So thank you, Amanda. It's gonna be just taking 10-15 more minutes. You okay? Should we continue, or you want to have some break, or you want to do something?
No, it's okay. I can do 10 more minutes.
Okay.
And
of course. We're just close to the time, of course. Thank you again in the middle of the podcast for your time. I truly appreciate it. It's an honor for me to have you, of course.
No worries.
And it's such a pleasure, and you're very nice of that. Thank you. So I'm gonna explain you a little bit about our brand ZÁY SHEEN. So what we do, and so when I started, it wasn't a sustainable brand. I used to sell my cultural clothes, like Pakistani clothes, because I saw a market gap when I was living in Thailand. So I lived there for about 10 years. So that's how it all started. But then it always was back in my head because I wanted to treat everyone fairly because we all are human beings. You would not like if someone treat you, not fair. So I just wanted to be the same with everyone. So, but I learned more about this, how it works or what is the thing, and then I got to know about ethical production or the ethical fashion, and then I went to the sustainable fashion and all that, and I said, this is the way. This is the way to, continue or to work on this. So that's how. So our Zayshin mission is to be sustainable and ethical for both people and the planet. So that's our main goal. And of course, as I mentioned before, do not buy from us. I don't recommend, but if you need something, go for the eco-conscious brands. So vote for your money. Exactly, that's the thing. So what is your perspective about, Zayshin mission or the thing that we're doing? And also we're 100% biodegradable delivery brand too. Whatever we use, it's also biodegradable, recycled with paper, or even our mailer bag are the recycled paper. So I believe it's actually so cool. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's really great to hear that you're putting sustainability at the forefront of your rebrand,
Right.
and it's important to understand obviously where you come from and the background that you've got, and that's what makes it actually more impressive, because it's not something culturally speaking that is important, perhaps in the countries that you mentioned before. So yeah, every little helps, and if you can create more, I would say, interest in this area in particular, culturally speaking, but also within your community, that's awesome. That's really, really, really impressive.
Thank you so much for that. Any advice you would like to give or say something conscious we should be focusing on?
I think you're doing a great job on social for sharing a lot of social sustainable content. So driving awareness, building awareness is really good. Obviously, hosting a podcast and getting people to talk about sustainability and why it's important to them. I would say the only other thing we can do is to take that empowerment and actually, help change the mindset within local communities. So is there an opportunity for your local neighborhood or community to actually get involved themselves? Is there a way to actually bring perhaps profit to those within your community at home, by bringing the manufacturing closer to home, or doing perhaps sewing circles or upcycling circles, taking the clothes or the surplus material and actually doing something that helps the local community there? Is there a chance that, if you're being able to offer like 1% for the planet, or help your local marine conservation society with each sale, or organizing something that actually drives, awareness about the fashion industry, or the saving the oceans or saving the planet, like offering free screenings of all the different wonderful
Exactly. So we
movies that have been created, that kind of thing.
Right. So we actually partnered with New York City Parks here in New York City, and we promised to plant 5,000 trees this year. And
Amazing.
Yeah, and we did about 1,200 as for now, and we're just waiting for the weather to get better so we could get in the rhythm and do more for the environment here in New York City, because I'm in Long Island. It's right next to New York City. It's a lot greener than the New York City because they have a lot of the construction over there every time whenever you go. So they don't have much places, but they made some beautiful places over there. They have the big parks and all that, and people volunteer actually. So I'm very happy to see them whenever I go and try to communicate and ask why they're here, you know. Some people say they're just here to fun, or with some friend bring them, or whatever is that. But as long they're doing something special for the planet, so I think that's good.
Great.
So exactly. Did you? I thought maybe we have some more, but yeah, that's it. Now we're to the closing marks. Anything, Amanda, you wanna add into this podcast that I missed, or you wanted to share your own voice too, of course, that you wanted the people to know, or you thought of, giving your thoughts to the world? Anything?
I would say if there's one thing that people can do in terms of educating themselves, Netflix has a lot of TV shows that are dedicated to, understanding the effects of climate change and the effects on our planet of industry in many different ways.
Yeah.
But if we can be planet literate in that respect, it really is free education and, hope for the future in that. And, I would say your own personal growth.
No, of course. Thank you so much for that. I had one thing in my mind about the tech talk. I don't know if you have some time more to talk about that, because I would love to know your experience. We spoke before, but a little bit, if you can tell, how was the experience, how they approach, or how did you prepare? You told me, and I was very surprised, and I was also thinking to do the same in the future if they offer me something. So, anything you want to share about that?
So I was contacted to do a TED Talk 3 years ago now.
Yeah.
Almost 4 years ago, actually, almost 4 years ago. And I was able to put forward a topic on sustainable fashion because I felt it was the most relevant aid for me, but also in terms of building on the educational talks that I was doing. Right. And it was approved, and we wrote a script together, myself and the TEDx coordinator. And then in order to obviously learn the script, because you have to memorize your 14-minute monologue with a lot of scientific quotes and percentages and things like this, it felt like being back at school again. But I managed to hire a tutor, like a coach, who helped create mind palaces and memory palaces for me, and then helped me with the speaking as well. So we did about a month of training before I went live.
So I have a question. Do they have any screen right in front of you where you can read your script, or if you forgot something you do?
No, you have to memorize it.
You have to memorize.
You know your stuff.
Okay. Also, I was actually looking at the reel a few days ago, and he showed a glasses that he was saying that people on the TED Talk wear these glasses because they can see their transcript in the glasses when they're speaking out. You ever heard of that or anything? Is that true?
Not that I know of, and definitely wouldn't have been allowed at ours.
Okay. Well, that was very good. I actually watched it twice. I learned a lot from that, TED Talk, and that was wonderful, actually.
Congratulations
again for that. Hopefully you get a chance again. I would love to see you again over there.
Yes, I'd love to.
Oh yeah, of course. I know that's gonna be a lot of hard work that you need to put in, a lot of dedication, but I believe it's worth it. As long you could.
Yeah.
So yeah, the last
word. It is.
Exactly. Any last words you want to give, and let the people know where to follow you or how they can find you? So.
No, I think we've covered everything.
Yeah, that was wonderful. Such a great experience with you. So yeah, just let the people know. I'm gonna also mention the screen.
Sure. I'm available on LinkedIn at Amanda Rushforth, also on Instagram at Amanda Grogel, and which is my married name. And then, yeah, you can find me on YouTube on the TEDx Talks as well.
Oh, wow. No, of course. Thank you so much, Amanda, for your time again.
Thank you, Tuffy. It's lovely to chat.
Likewise. It's such a pleasure to have you. So, yeah, that's it. Thank you so much.
Have a wonderful rest of the day. I'm going to have to run because I've got 4 phone calls that have just come through because I've got to be off at 4.
Oh, yeah, of course. Say hi.
But it's been lovely to talk.
Likewise. Hopefully we'll be, talking soon and doing something together again. And yeah, otherwise we'll stay connected.
Perfect. Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Have a lovely day.
Take care. Bye bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.